In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Welcome, O ears of the conscious living. Isn't it fascinating? When the whole world was a show, a soul in this world has come to give a lecture on a personal moment, so therefore nobody else can really give this lecture other than me. I'm a human being who I consider that I was born on this place we call Earth, in this greater place we call the Milky Way galaxy, in this greater place we call the visible universe, and then this greater place where we don't know the edge of it really. For me, there came a moment when I noticed the system admin and I believe the world smiled at me. That means, I'll give you an example. There's different rooms of intelligence in reality. So, for example, when one human being communicates to another human being, that is a type of communication. And then there's a human being communicating to a world, or the world communicating to the human being. The person's about to get angry and unleash chaos, which is not the path of their soul, and suddenly a butterfly lands on their shoulder and they just calm down. All right. As I have said before, the only path is to go forth, and I need to give a lecture on how the world smiled when I discovered the system admin. Okay? And higher intelligent maintenance of lower power. This is very easy to explain. So I have this strange view, uncommon view, that I need to explain on a gentler song. Hold on. I don't know any of the people who will listen to this lecture. Do you know? And my own family does. They don't. Do you know? And I'm in this very interesting situation where I find myself just being like the same person but speaking in a hall that is immortalized by cyberspace. Like, I cannot avoid the overwhelming fascination that out of all my ancestors, I'm the first to kind of step into cyberspace as a being with a persona. I find myself, you know how there's like, I chose the name Mr.Within with a very multi-perspectived, um, I chose Mr. Within because I'm not anybody's like teacher or guru or master. Like it's called Mr. Within. That's my title. All right. You know, even if I like, get like, I don't know, 100 PhDs, right? At the same time, I'll be like, yo, man, this is still Mr. Within, right? They're like, we need to call you doctor at this point. It's getting weird. I'm like, don't you dare call me Doctor Within. Like, I'll slap you. No, I'm kidding. So here I am and trying to give you a lecture about how I look at reality. I'm just trying to make the point like, yo, not everything I'm sharing, like I'm speaking obviously to a world that I don't know. In the same way you're hearing something from a world you don't know. Like right now, how do I say it? Like I come and display like complexity to the viewers, but in reality, I'm a simple guy. It's like the simple presence of complexity. My whole life, I have wondered about not just who do you want to be, but how do you want to be? And the question of intelligence couldn't be avoided. I was born in a household where my father believed in the spirit and the soul, and that was a mystery and unfathomable for me at that age, you know? And from another angle, they were explaining the biological human body, and science had its own sort of clarity going on. And in the middle of this, I remember I was 11 years old and I had heard the sentence that human beings are using 12% of their brain. And I was like, even though that sentence was like kind of like shifted, what they meant is like 12% of the brain's activity can kind of be comprehended or something. Let's say, I don't know. There's a sensitivity there in regards to how it was said and how it was heard. And what can I say? We're 8 billion different viewpoints in a unknown, dynamic, verb-like changing state, right? We're like, yo, man, I totally agree. Earth is static and physical, and we're all standing there. But hey, is it possible that right now Earth, in comparison to the center, is like, what's the speed? I don't have internet on my laptop to kind of check it, but I think it was 865,000, something like in that range, kilometers per second or something. I don't know. It was this ridiculous number that what to us is still, how they say one man's trash is another man's treasure. It's like they're human beings and they're these species, like there's 8 billion of us, right? And that should just be a sense of rarity and honor for you. Do you know that it's like it's not just about, thinking you were existing somewhere in the middle of existence, but more like, yo, why this unique existence? That means why, out of everything I could do on this planet, I find it very significant to come here and turn on the microphone and be like, yo, future, somebody lived here. Do you know? And souls are living hidden lives, and only the external reality is being recorded in history. Do you know? Human beings will benefit so remarkably from an information sort of surveillance state than compared to the opposite. Let me tell you why. Because everything right now is governed contextually as systems inside systems. And what you are is how your attention identifies with the presence of your being. Okay? And I'm that human being who's like, yo, man, I don't have the wisdom of a 90-year-old like sage who has a beard, that's just white and long. Like, I don't know what to say to that. Right? Like, I don't have that level of wisdom, but I have like, somebody who's lived on this planet at like an rough estimate of like around 12,000 days. So 12,000 days, I've opened my eyes, I've wondered about what's going on, and I've gone back to sleep, and I've wondered again about what's going on, and it's been this endless cycle that I'm like, wait a minute, reality is mechanistic and sometimes may appear soulless because it's a simple dance between duality. That means everything that is alive right now, its dualistic component is that there's death. We all die. Okay? Or anybody who's sees something visible, the dualistic component to that is that, like, okay, there's some beings looking at reality and valuing the visible, and there's some beings looking at reality and valuing the invisible. And you might be like, yo, how can somebody value the invisible? And I'll like, you won't believe it. It's like this hidden life that's been going on. And I don't know how I have the comfort of speaking like this, but somehow I do. I think it's because I feel like I was born too soon. You know, they're like, yo, man, this guy's ego is so fucking advanced that he thinks he was born 400 years too soon. Can you imagine? Yeah, I firmly believed that for some time, but now if you ask me what I believe, it's so different than a story. And so I am kind of burdened with the responsibility of just the soul of this moment, really. Like, what can I do? So, first I gotta change this song. This song is incredible, but at the same time, like, I just want to shout, relax. Anyways, guys, let's dive into it. Because everything has geometry, and if you concentrate, it just unravels. Concentration is like the precursor to reality unraveling. I find myself strangely blessed. Like they say, count your blessings. And one of the greatest blessings I believe I've had in this life, that from early on I began noticing there is something deeper going on than what I am functioning in and as. Okay, that means imagine somebody sees the ocean for the first time. Somebody sees the surface of the ocean and knows that there's a depth to it, but they're like, yo. And if somebody says, hey man, did you see the ocean? If somebody says, yeah man, I saw the ocean, that person's either ignorant or imprecise or not realizing that the depth of the ocean is the actual ocean. So what the ocean is not its surface. So if the surface of the ocean is not the whole ocean, can we say the human, physical human position we find ourselves is the surface of a much more deeper reality of how things are happening here? Because we have to consider it's humanized value systems, cultures are just different classes. That means it's much easier to classify human beings in accordance to behavior than in accordance to, like, specific, heritage meaning structures. Honestly, I ask myself, you don't know, let me tell you, like, I have these playful things I kind of envision behind my eyes, and what it is that anything that I speak about, a part of me it's like a challenge to my own being. When I was younger, I read this thing that they're like, every sentence of a book should have meaning and be, taking things further, for it, like, advancing the moment. For me, I'm just that human being. I mean, can you blame me? 12,000 days of waking up on this earth and being like, okay, there has to be more than just cultural programs requiring human souls to re-loop them, right? There has to be something more here than everything we see now, because where is meaning going? That means the atheist is kind of like, if you're a senior citizen, I think you can be an atheist, then it doesn't matter. Do you know? But when you are, in some sense, someone who is, let's say, truly capable of being conscious of the deep living nature of this simulation of reality we are in, like, don't think it's an easy thing. I'm coming in front of the presence of the human civilization in history and just entering cyberspace and being like, hey guys, I somehow got into this cyberspace room, but now that I am here in the presence of all ideas marching towards the future, this is what was envisioned now. For me, I went through various phases of life in these 12,000 days. And I want you to imagine that every person is kind of living three lives, but civilization kind of bases reality on one of them, actually. One life you're living is your body's life. Okay, this is public. It's public to your own consciousness, you know? That means if you exist, you have a body that's existing, right? There's something there to exist. So there's the body's life. Pretty much, what's my body going to do on this planet? Do you know? And then there's the mind's life. Now, the mind's life is very fascinating because the mind's life is where consciousness realizes the dualism of reality. A mind can be defined as the awareness to duality, really. That's its structure. As an experiential being aware of existential design, that's its existential design. And I'm in these phases of life I've experienced so far. I want you to think of it this way. Some people conceptually advance in this world, and some people contextually advance. So the conceptual awareness is very different than contextual awareness. They have pretty much the way every educational system is that they're giving conceptual awareness first without giving contextual awareness. When you don't explain the context and you give somebody a concept, all they can do is just take it in their own reality and revalue its meaning, right? That means we got to understand, like when I was younger, life was very simple. Very simple, because there was no ego yet. It was just like, okay, life force and expression in a reality. But as I began to see what human beings are calling knowledge, I began truly wondering about, okay, so like, let's say you figured out how to do the Rubik's Cube, but you haven't figured out what the deepest questions on reality are. For me, like, this might sound strange, but as a Muslim, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the Hadith, yes, they asked him about the soul, and he just shared some sort of view on it. And he said that it's like a militaristic ranking system. And from the Islamic context, it's like before you were the soul and entered physical reality here, right? It was in a place called Alam al Arwa. That means it was in the world of souls, and the world of souls, Alam al-Arwa literally translates to the world of souls. And in the world of souls, all the souls had a rank, right? And the souls of the same rank got along, and the souls of different ranks, in some sense, they weren't like in the same ranks there in the world of souls, right? God knows really. But when human beings are born here on earth in accordance to the system admin, like, you don't think being Muslim means you're just being human, okay? Okay, so somebody has just shared the chat. The chat has spoken, and it's a very time dilated sentence to read. How do you discover the system admin? So I'm getting there, bro. Very simply, I reached a meaningless point in reality. See, I'm honoring your question. That's the answer. I just reached a point where I was like, okay, the ego is destroying itself, right? And it has this weird psychology of wanting to be like, okay, if I destroy myself, there's going to be nothing left. But if I destroy myself and that converts into some sort of advancement for reality, then it was like better than just destroying myself in front of myself, right? So I reached this point where I realize that I can't be a pure being while being in a survival, while playing a survival game where there's desires there. Okay? So the system admin was actually when I took the final step out of my self-simulated meaning, which I was worshiping. Okay, that's when it really happens. Okay, when, like, to me, if you ask me right now, hey, Mr. Within, are you being poetic when you say system admin? No. There's legit an administrative system, like force in the system of this reality, that it's not just like you have a specific destiny, how moments have a specific destiny, how communication travels within the fields of intelligence of mankind is like, it's not just us here, okay? It's like yeah, we've built cities and we've built, civilized behavior models that we've been for generations maintaining, but I'm telling you, like, yo, man, the true I feel like, okay, how do I say it? In I never strangely experienced this, but I saw the archetype as a kid, and I part of me visualized myself in that archetype. So me and my twin brother, when we were very young, and my, what do you call it, my cousin, who was strangely the same age as me and my strangely same age as me and my brother, okay? And my cousin, he had a sister who was younger, and when we were playing soccer, they would call her like nohodi, which I think translates into like the, I don't know if it's the vegetable, like chickpea, right? And it was just this term in Iran that kids use by saying the smaller kids shouldn't be in the game. Like, no, everybody should be responsible and conscious. Like, you don't kick the ball like a savage when there's like a nohodi in the game. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how else to explain it, but it's kind of like being born in this world, getting access to some sort of range of information, and then a part of you being like, what's the actual site of it though? Like, what are the most conscious human beings on earth? Like, what sort of view on reality do they access that we don't? My whole life has pretty much been like, yo, man, why am I seeing this? But how come my mind sees all these other things? And why is this specifically authorized in external reality? That means a person has, like, imagine a multiple choice, a bunch of realities of ideas that are possibilities, but you choose one. And when you choose one, it's like you've entered that door. And there's different challenges, like a human being, like let's say if I was listening to my, like, okay, let's say if I was in like the shoes of the viewers, right? So like, you can challenge the concept I share, and you can challenge the context I share. And you the best way to do it is have honest intent, whatever you do. I don't know how to explain it, but honesty is like a cheat code. Reality in its simple way is worthy when one is honest. I don't know how to say it. It's like the soul and mind are getting along. It's like the person's chain smoking cigarettes, and it's like, yeah, man, I'm okay. I don't have an ego, do you know? Honestly, I don't know how to explain it, but I gotta build the context up to the point where How did I, as a human being, even my mind be like, yo, is there a system admin here? like, like I didn't create this world, like I'm certain of that, but like, does it have an owner? Because it's too specific in geometry. I don't know how to explain it, but this world is too designed. That means the fear that's like, yo, man, this person has a phobia of how existence can exist. I'm joking. See, it's not, see, reality, at least in the human way, like, how do I explain it? I've reached that point where I've been talking about advanced civilizations and advanced communication for so long, where I could legit, like a next level martial artist, just in a few sentences, share it. But the whole point of it is the consciousness. If you look at human history and human existence so far, just think about it from the beginning of your life till now. What separates who you were in the past till now? What is something that is happening to all human beings? And I want you to think from the archetype of the peasant to the archetype of the king. Okay? What is happening in reality? Just think about it. And what you notice, at least this is what I notice as a soul being raised in this world, is that it's about levels of responsibility and the honesty to justify that level of responsibility with the most aware view of the moment. Somebody in the chat says it's like a game. Yeah. But you got to realize there's why you're playing it, you know? I don't know how to explain it. It's like a person just kind of like strangely sometimes, I don't know, I guess my mind does this playfully. I envision like my whole life like a fast forwarded film that I just saw. Okay? And I don't know, I have kind of like third perspective surveillance awareness of my own object. It's like the space between my awareness that envisions the inner event, see the inner scene. It's like, how do I say it? There's something to imagination that it's like the other side of the coin of it is divinity. But you are not that divinity. I don't know how to explain it. It's like, man, human beings are more than they are. Like, okay, see, you're either living in a world where the context is simulated, or you're living in a world where the context is true. Okay, when you become religious, you're living in a true context of reality. Okay, that's the whole point. But let's say if you're not religious, so you have to look at this life and be like, okay, like, sure, I have a name, personality, backstory, legendary character, but wait a minute. Am I just this massive accumulation of symbolism and structure, ideological structure, or is it in some sense that we're all unknown beings? Like, there's an intensity there, right? But it has to be said. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like before I discovered the system admin, I discovered how knowledge was simulated in the unknown. That means, again, the two views you could look at life: everything simulated or everything is true. Now, most human beings, they live their life seeing that everything is true. Okay, because they see everything is true. If an alien suddenly appears out of nowhere, or if some geometry or something happens that's beyond normal physics, like, we should thank, you know, like, this might be a very important point, but like, I think there's a reason many human beings, just like science class put them to sleep. Okay, and it's not because they were fools or they didn't have curiosity or something like that. It's that I believe that external reality, yes, there are constants in regards to the space that it's kept, but the intelligence that moves reality is not sequential. That means the only explanation of did the chicken come first or the egg, it has only one answer. The chicken and the egg and that dynamic cycle, right, already instantly existed. So for me, I went from like first looking at life and being like, yo, it's a nice place, and then being like, yo, there's a system admin to it. But at the time, I didn't even, my mind didn't even, could not even connect these two ideas. Right? In my youth, I believed in God, but it was more like I saw a movie that scared me. I went to my mother, and my mother's like, say the name of God 7 times. And every night I just made a habit of just to be safe, I would say like Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, 7 times. This went on for like, I think I lost count, and it was just a habit, right? You know? And I believed in God, but I was so distant from being able to say anything or do anything about it, right? That it was more like a background context to reality that I just knew there was, right? That means either you look at this world and it's empty or it's full, right? And they're trying to convince us it's empty before we've actually seen is there a divine agency here or not. Okay, so that's first of all, this is one of the most next level comments I think ever, maybe in like a YouTube video. But somebody in the chat section says, I believe we're being watched not by God, but by other unknown non-human beings. Okay, so but you still mean a formed being, right? You mean a being that has form still. So I don't know, whoever wrote the last comment in the chat section, like, do you mean formed or non? When you say non-human, do you mean like aliens and stuff? Because that stuff is too diving too deep into the simulation. Anyways, I gotta get to the moment. This whole lecture is an effort to just explain to you how. I mean, I've explained it before. I guess I'm just talking about what I feel I should, I guess, in this moment. Let me see. This song's called Silent Arbiter. All right, to continue, and my laptop has 17%. Okay, that's not bad. So, to continue. I'm gonna just forget like trying to teach people anything here, actually. I'm not gonna educate you about the context, and I'm just gonna share something. And most likely, you're not gonna hear it the way I intended to, because I haven't explained the context of it, but so in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, beginning with this view that this world is powered and it's intelligently powered. In my experience of life, that I truly came across the system admin, like if I wanted to say consciously, not just unconsciously because you were raised in an environment, more like I was like, okay, when did God become a part of your life? And I'll be like, again, it was this moment of complete powerlessness, and this view that the ego had kind of was destroying itself out of its own inconvenience of might of expectation. That means imagine a soul that had an ambition so vast that it realized it cannot achieve that ambition and was like strangely subconsciously destroying itself. Do you know? And I reached a point where I realized as a human mind, there's infinite ways to look at reality. So, what is the value of anything at all? And I realized it requires an additional intelligent agency to explain it, right? So, on some level, I remember I was in this hotel and I just I had a knee problem, but I was just on my bed and I just felt like, okay, I don't know what to choose out of infinite viewpoints. And the body seems to be, inspired by an ego that's kind of YOLOing it. So, like, what now? Right? And I just remember for the first time in my life, it wasn't even like disputable submission. It was kind of like I was just like, okay, I don't understand this then. I just realized I didn't create myself, so I don't know what the most advanced way of activating myself as a human being is, right? And I just realized their reality's limitations. So religion is for those beings that realize they're a limited being. Okay, and then they are like, okay, what is the next approach then? And I remember I just bowed. Like, I'm not kidding, guys. I was in this hotel. I was on the bed. I just bowed. And I had tears flowing in my eyes because my ego had understood there was no way out of its own self-simulated meaning. The ego was kind of keeping the attention of the soul. Like, it was like a part of me was like, nah, man, I still believe in myself. I still believe I can do this. I still believe anything is possible. And I realized it was easier to say than actually go forth with it, right? And I came to this realization of like, okay, I have reached actual powerlessness. Like, in powerless in the sense of like, not it was a powerlessness out of infinite ways to look at something, and you're like, okay, I don't know what to choose out of infinity. So I remember I completely did sujood. I just bowed and I was like, higher being, for the first time in my life, I'll follow the protocol. I'll have faith. And there's this saying, because they say if a human being wants to do something, it's limited to the imaginable. But when God wants to do something for the human being, it happens in unimaginably perfect ways. Perfection is divine mercy upon man. Any human being that's living in a blessed moment, that is divine mercy. And it is about your distance to the system admin. If you're like a child born in this like poverty-stricken, violent ghetto, that is your distance from the system admin. The system admin is in actuality, I just felt a presence. I bowed, and the moment I bowed, I was just, it's strange to say it, but it was like I was my raw ego. And I just realized I became like this person who had so many deep views on reality, and suddenly I was like, I don't know any better, and I don't think my species does either. Okay, so higher power, solve these problems that I have no way of knowing how to deal with these forces. Okay, and believe it or not, months after, my prayers were answered, and I was convinced that what I felt in that moment was like it was confirmed for me. And then I was privileged to step into what I term as the pure lands of Islam. Okay, that means there's a purity in the Islamic tradition, and it's like it's protected by this force field of, to be truly Muslim, your heart has to value the unimaginable causal point of being. where everything has arose from. That means as a Muslim, like, yes, I do understand physics, but if you ask me how did everything happen, I'll tell you the clues are right there. Theologically, God commanded man into existence instantaneously, right? God commanded man and to instantaneously say the divine names, and he did. And then God commanded all the scenarios that have led to, in some sense, this moment of human beings being here. So, in my experience, I accepted the limitation of my human capability to administer not myself, but all my envisionment. I established a relationship with the system admin, and every time I would pray, I would feel like I'm in the presence of such a higher power that it's strangely very hard to say if you can even, like, there's moments where it's more like I felt something during prayer than I've just like did something. Of course, the whole intention is to praise the system admin. That means you just pause everything in reality and you're like, thank God for God. And you just appreciate the incredible genius. Because if you tell me what surpasses a genius person, it is a divine person. And the geniuses on this planet will agree. Okay, and what surpasses a divine person? It is a being that is in the will of the system admin. That means, it's very strange to say this, you're conditioned to worship your free will and think that you're the main character of your life, but to be religious or to be aware of what possible higher intelligence there is here, um, think of it this way: 8 billion unique DNA creatures on the planet, and they're like, what are we all looking at? And they all have different simulations overlaid on this. I'm telling you, everything that anybody seeks, all their desires, they arise as simulated probabilities in the inner realms, and then it is their expectations. And different souls have different styles. Like, that means if somebody comes and asks me a question, I'm like, yeah, man, I can share my view as an outsider from it, but in reality, nobody knows your own soul better than you. If you are seeing something, it's as if the world is communicating something to you. What is the point of the communication? You know, like all those people. Well, okay, here, I won't get into it, but I'll say it this way. If a bunch of aliens landed on Earth right now, and they're like, what's the most advanced intelligence you human beings have? I would be like, in the outer realms, like nuclear stuff, right? And I display honesty to the extraterrestrial. I'd say, in the inner realms, we believe that this realm has a system admin that has even created you, and you are our test as a being. Do you know? That means if extraterrestrials landed on Earth, I'll be like, okay, guys, humanity's in the middle of like uniting, and you guys land. Like, get out of here. Do you know what I mean? You see, you cannot tell people who enjoy a sleeping in a sleeping world not to dream. They're like, how do you know we're not in an advanced civilization? Because we're living more in our inner realms than outer realms. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what era in history you're experiencing your own existence as in 2025. objects becoming conscious to re-identify themselves as subjects, and having done so for a long time, being more capable of realizing, okay, I am not just one moment's idea to communicate. I am in actuality the presence of the journey of my attention in this realm so far as a life force. When we wonder about the depth of reality, when we wonder about the true presence of our being, at some point, if somebody tells me, is there something superior than fame? I would be like, yeah, it's the being in the presence of the system admin. I'll give you an example. Right now, as a human being, like as a soul in this world, I have a relationship with myself as a being. I have a relationship, let's say, with the viewers who listen to this, right? With that which is external to me. But I also have my own private server relationship with the system admin. That means, like, when I communicate and express myself, that's like just the tip of the iceberg of really what I am as a being. And when you hear it, it's the same. It's just like a moment's design for you. So after I truly honored the original, my life took a very different turn, and I am shifting between pure lands and what I term not as impure but work lands. Do you know? And what I mean by this is that for me, at the beginning I told you it's like being a person is like you're living three lives: the body's life, the mind's life, the soul's life. It's like most people, when they wake up throughout the day, they're living like body's life. Everybody's living body's life, but some people are living mind's life. Their mind is not just like an empty observer. It is generated in accordance. It is responding to its own conclusions of information receiving. So I have reached this point personally as a being that I know there is a system admin here. I know that what Carl Jung was like, Jungian synchronicity, bro. And I'm like, relax, man. It is the presence of the higher power. That means what is superior than the known, which means all of knowledge, and the unknown, which means the extension of all of knowledge that we cannot know. It is the creator of the situation. And this moment of existence is like a moment that is a situation, and its creator is key. That means to be like, for me right now, like, I don't know how to explain it to you. It's like my whole life's purpose. Even they're like, yo, man, imagine you had no other purpose. What would your purpose be? And I'd be like, it's like if I reach the point where I'm like, what's the most most advanced thing I can do as a being here before I exit this realm, right? It's to be aware of the most advanced state of being. Somebody in the chat section says, I am 100% sure we're being watched. Yeah, you're being watched by the creator of this. And it's important to be aware of it. The way out of an intelligence simulation is to communicate with the admin of it. This doesn't mean like I'm telling you like just play a game of God in your mind where you're like trying to figure out what God is. I'm telling you, yo, it's not just a physical landscape where every person that's born's like, yeah, man, I'm going to give my own meaning to this and enjoy. It's like, it's not that simple. What is present in the realm? That means, like, if we were to make a spectrum of all the different intelligent ways that reality can be, you're going to see it's fascinating, because it's like there's biological advancement, psychological advancement, technological advancement, linguistic advancement. Like, advancement means the might of entering the future. Somebody in the chat section says, what should someone do if they're certain they're in contact with these intelligent, responsive, unknown beings? If I honestly was in your shoes, I'd start praying every day. I would go to the system admin and be like, okay, weird stuff's happening, system admin, what's going on here? Like, to me, my heart would go immediately to the higher power. That means I wouldn't play the middle game. Some people play the middle game. They're like aliens, time travelers, you know, angels, spirits, elders, ascended masters. I'm like, relax, guys. It's a system. It has a system admin. It has mods, and we're users. And the users, the way they advance beyond the system is by noticing the most advanced power. And it's like the way you get out of the simulation is you gotta figure out, you gotta meet who created it before you die, if you can. And it's not like meeting God, but it's in some sense like in the honesty of the presence of who we truly are. How mighty can the clarity of our attention be? After some point, it's not about egoic desire. That's too limited. I don't know how to say it, but after 12,000 days of living on this planet, if you are not a deep person by then, it's like, what have you been doing? That means I've looked at this system. I've seen the same behaviors loop. I've seen the same behaviors loop between the generations. I'm not even kidding. Do you know? And I'm telling you, there is a system administrative force. So it's like, how you're conscious you're in a world right now? Imagine something more important than that is to be conscious that there's an unimaginable, unconditional force that is administering everything, and it's like this original power created this simulated reality, and the simulated reality will return to the original power, and what occurred during the simulated reality seemed to be in some sense a simulated testing zone within a divine surveillance state. That means not only like your mind can try to make the unknown into anything. You can think orbs are contacting you. You can think like, yo man, in my mind I'm holding like an extraterrestrial telephone. Do you know what I mean? Like seriously, on some level, the depth of reality is so much more advanced than our limited attention to it. That means God becomes interesting, becomes necessary even when you realize your limitations. Who is the captain of your soul? And for me personally, the captain of all souls is the captain of the world soul, and the captain of the world soul is beyond the world room. So it's like they're like, what kind of God do you worship? One that is unimaginable, and if the human mind even tried to imagine it, it would be the infinitude of all attributes. What else can I say? Friend or foe, we all existed once in the moment together, right? Like, I have no idea why I'm existing in this moment, and I have no idea why existence is existing as an idea, and at some point I just realized there is a higher administrative force here. How moments happen, it's not just based on human values. It seems to be based on values that the human being does not individually possess, but can empathize, or at least to some degree become aware of. That means Islam is a very unique path, because as a Muslim, you're being told, don't go to any moderator. God cannot be a shape or a form, limited to that. So as long as your attention acknowledges that the presence of the unimaginable, unconditional, the unknown, the creator of reality knows all of reality. Therefore, as a creation of reality, in our effort to know the creator of reality, come into the ultimate conclusion, which is like, have faith. Like they're like, yo man, what do you mean have faith? It's like, excuse me, what else can there be? Like you've just contacted a higher being that is the unimaginable administrator of reality, and they're like, what do you do now? Do you become an ego that follows your desires? No, it's like you have faith. You have faith that there is an intelligence beyond the human limitation that is managing reality. So I'm that soul that's like, guys, like, sure, let's keep acting like people in the human story, but it seems to me that we're preoccupied in looping simulations while in actuality this world is a commanded reality. Do you know? Everything is like teaching you about what you are. What's it like to be on earth? It took you a lifetime to understand what we're all standing under. I don't know. I'm that human being who just concluded, like, what's the most advanced thing you can do on earth, bro? Is to make everybody else advance. That means it's my ego. You know, I'm like that guy. My ego, like subconscious ego, I was like, yo, man, I am so advanced that I might just claim myself and crown myself as the most advanced being on earth. Okay? And then a part of me is like, wait a minute. You can't know if you're the most advanced being on earth if you're the only one. You have to be in the most advanced civilization with all the most advanced beings, and then it's a comparison of advancement scale. So my effort is hilariously both selfish and altruistic. It's like selfish altruism. Okay, where I'm like, yo, I want to know how advanced I am, but before I can, everybody else has to also be advanced, and the most advanced civilization must be present, and then we get to see how advanced we really are. And a part of that process led me to the realization that it cannot be devoid that we are in the presence of the most advanced. They're like, you believe in God, and I'm like, yeah, I believe that there's a like if all of reality was a box, outside of it there's an unimaginable advanced power that is commanding all the forces that manifest to us as nature's laws. I believe we're in a commanded reality, and I believe this reality has a system, and I believe that every soul on this planet, the soul is the secret of God. You can't really see the whole picture, but based on the amount of the picture we can see, the soul seems to be the effort of something that within the being is original, but it's in a simulated place, and it wants to return to the original. That means I call it like, it's like the urge of advancement within just the presence of the being. And you have faith. Faith is like the final station in external reality. They're like, yo, man, how come you went close to God and you didn't transcend into another dimension? How come you didn't become like something like, angelic level and all like that? And the person's like, bro, relax. The whole point of the system admin is that our free will and egos don't get to choose what happens to everything, yet they get to choose what they see meaning in. Now, the struggle of humanity has been to clarify that, okay, all these subjective models, which we call ideas that human beings have had so far, what is their value? And on some level, how do we look at the human species? And this is kind of like the eagle principle, where it's like the eagle has an ability to just sit on a branch and think that's reality, and it has an ability to fly in the sky and see all the forest at the same time. Right, so it's a matter of elevation. Your mind gives you levels of elevation to your body Your soul gives levels of elevation to your, what do you call it, to your mind. And the levels of elevation of your soul, which is another way of saying your soul's rank, it is at the mercy of the system admin. Kind of like the finality of the final realization of the most intelligent activity that could be done. It's like, oh, I thought there was fear, suffering, destruction, chaos, but all of this is administered. There's an intelligence here. It's as if there's something everything in existence knows that it's too shy to tell you, to for all of us to publicly acknowledge. And that it's, isn't it strange? They say this world is made of matter, but the atom is 99.9% empty. They tell you you are an object, but the brain is simulating. It's like, am I an object or am I the brain's activity right now? You know what I mean? It's like there's a depth in awareness. Like this world we're living in, this is just the surface world. We are in the surface world of the mind, right? The deeper natures of the mind, it divides into schools of humanization and dehumanization. So schools of dehumanization are like the forbidden arts, and humanization is like, you know, those are kind of like, how do I say it? Because it's the application of divination. If somebody says like, yo man, can a religious person like, bless and pray for an extraterrestrial, I'll be like, okay, like we've reached that point where we have to recontextualize the system. I'm pretty much saying like, yo, it's obviously too specifically designed to not have a creator. And it's like you're looking at a garden. It's like when you look at a garden filled with flowers and everything, do you look at that garden and be like, yo, man, all these flowers have to be the same flower and they have to look at the same, in the same angle at the same sun? I'm like, okay, that's like that's a weird garden. Okay. So there's a reason there is all these different human beings on this planet, because from a more of a higher like eagle in the sky view, it's like a garden. Okay, it's the human garden of existence, let's say. So there's so many different flowers, so many different ways that the human intelligence is expressing. And now we're wondering about the most advanced way humanity can express. And it has to come down to finding common denominating visions. That means it's like 8 billion human beings. We're like, why should we build an advanced civilization? And the answer came, why not? And everybody was like, all right, let's give it a try. What can be done? What are we all trying to do? And what sort of wisdom can someone who's lived on this planet for 12,000 days tell you? If I was to explain to you how it felt when I discovered truly the system admin, that means when it was confirmed, my prayers were confirmed. Because the moment I was in on that bed in my hotel and I was just praying, just I had my forehead on the, just like ground level of the bed. It's like my inner unknown life could be honest with my outer known life. And my outer known life was also in the presence of the ultimate command of reality. It's like From one level, yes, I'm a person with a name, personality, backstory, but from another level, I'm an unknown soul wondering about the original command of why it was here. And if I can discover that original command, which the clue to it is to have faith, it is all about what is the most advanced way that reality can happen. That means what is the most advanced way to praise God, to be responsible and care for God's creation. That means we're like, yo man, in the by the year 2026, like it did it like humans had realized intelligence was so much more valuable than non-existence, that we have to care for every mind. In an advanced civilization, it will be opposite of now. In an advanced civilization, the most advanced beings in that civilization will come and find you. That's how you know you're in an advanced civilization. There's been a smarter intelligence that has kind of like, you know, allowed the moment to ascend to higher vision. I shouldn't say ascend, but to elevate to higher vision. And it's really about the depth you look at reality. Are you just a body living a life here? Are you just the mind being able to self position in as many abstract ways as possible? Or are you on some level this unknown soul, kind of like wondering about where you came from and realizing that the original, it's pretty much like original state created simulated state is being witnessed by original state, simulated state has an opportunity to be conscious of the original state, and then simulated state returns it back to the original state. And when it returns back to the original state, the life that was lived will be truly seen as the values it had. How aware were we of the greatness of all that was, all that we ever had? At some point, I'm like, yo, man, like, what's something money can't buy? The awareness to an intelligence that is administering reality, and our free will here is freaking out why things don't happen or happen in certain ways. And it's really just like you've opened your eyes in this world setting, and you're going forth, and based on the environment and the imagery, the mind kind of, starts hopping. Right, so really where we are is an unknown world with as an unknown self in the presence of an unknown system admin, right? Unknown God, right? Unknowable God in the sense of it's so beyond what we can know. And so it's like an unknown self in an unknown world in the presence of an unknown God, right? Is really what's going on. But right now in reality, it's like a known self in a known world in the presence of an unknown God. So the life of the soul is actually unknown. So when in the Holy Quran it says the soul is the secret of God, and it's the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what it's saying is that the original power knows the depth of what you are. You are legit in a world where we can't know ourselves fully, like we can't know the edge of ourself, we can't know the edge of our world, we can't know the edge of our truth. And they're like, all right, man, you're in this situation, you're being tested on how you lived. And it's like, yo, what is the value then? Because where's the honor and inspiration? And I was like, let's just consider that there must be three ultimate strategies preparing us for the acceptance of the finale, but it's not a necessity. It's more like I'm saying, like it's not necessary, but I'm saying it like this. What's the greatest strategy for body? We advance all the sciences that keep people healthy. Okay, that's the most important thing. Like that's the biological life strategy. Okay, for this, and also high quality of standard of experience of the human existence. And then we go to the mind's life, and what's the greatest strategy for the mind? The mind seems to be motivated by purpose. When something becomes important, its true intelligence activates. When something is not important, it is distant and in some sense behind language, hidden behind language. Like the person's hiding behind language. I was like, all right, the greatest strategy for my mind has to include some sort of honor. What is the greatest honor of the mind? The greatest honor of the mind is to live for the ultimate true value. I don't know why, but when I really think about like what do I want most in this life, I want to not only know the truth, but comprehend how advanced this can be, achieve successfully the advancement of human civilization in my lifetime, and live. That means I'm like, what can you do when you're a human being that God has allowed you in your inner realms to see future probabilities of like in visions of advanced civilizations, okay? And then you're just back here in 2025 being like, all right, what should I do with that awareness? Right? And for me, all that I can do is I decided just what's the guiding principle of my life? Advancement. Advancement has to do with the furthest awareness to the moment. How far can I see beyond the sight that has conditions and boundaries? So to me, the system admin, it's real. That means and deep down in my heart, not only do I fear it because of the scale of difference of presence of being, that means it's like, they're like, yo man, what did you feel when you met the system admin in your prayer, when you were praying? And I was like, legit, I felt shame. I felt like, man, I'm so inefficient and so not advanced compared to this power. And I just relaxed and I laughed it off, and I just realized that faith is the key that in some sense God puts in the door and opens for you. We are here to not only honor the original power of reality, but to originally reactivate our presence here on earth and live for an advanced civilization with the honest honor of a human being that has realized it is the greatest thing that can be done. Like, I'm just waiting for, I don't have kids, but if in the future I had kids, I'd just be waiting for them to come and be like, Dad, you know, this civilization's so unadvanced. And I'm like, kids, have you heard my talks? And they're going to be like, no. And I'll be like, they're going to be like, you give talks? And I'll be like, no. You know, but it would be that moment where I'd realize, like, I'd be proud. Because there's some people who want to fit into a world that they haven't truly understood. And there are those who go the path of understanding and come to the realization that it's all about responsibility levels. Since our childhood, that's the difference between every person. Every person I see, I can say, based on their responsibility level, the state of their mind, the weight of what they carry. That means sometimes when you look at an unethical person, you're looking at someone being crushed by their own mind and decisions, and not having a sort of simpler value proposition to reality. That means when they look at life, it's so complex that it's not manageable. But all you got to do is look at it and be like, what if I was a simpler person, and what if this was a simpler place, and what if in that simplicity I saw all that complexity truly was. It's the might of an unknown soul living in a known simulated life, being like, now the species is mature enough to have evening discussions on the true nature of the reality of the humanity, right? And to realize it is a great task, honor, and position. We are here obviously being tested on how we should be human. And now I'm saying, like, we're conscious enough to have discussions on, like, yo man, what if we had an advanced civilization? And imagine people were like, yeah man, like, let's see what that would be like, right? The most advanced civilization would mean a civilization where all the beings are making the most advanced decisions all the time. So the most advanced decision you can make all the time, you don't know what it could be, because the mind is in an infinite multiple choice situation. right? So this is where the system admin is required. So you have faith, and as you walk through a state of faith, you're conscious that the system admin is conscious of all reality. So in Islam, they're like, go directly to the system admin and pray to the system admin alone that has no partner. And they're maybe in the middle of this moderators or shaped forms that try to act like they're the ultimate truth. But in reality, it's beyond form. Clarity was a horizon that, in some sense, the sight did not need to be shaped. In the presence of God, truth was all that there ever was. Thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. In the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful. Thank you for listening.